Imagine a normal morning. You wake up, get out of bed, walk to the kitchen, put the kettle on. Everything seems okay. Then you need to squat down to reach the bottom shelf, or climb a few flights of stairs, or stand for 10 or 15 minutes in a line, and suddenly you notice that your legs feel heavier than before. Getting up from the couch is not as easy as it used to be. You sometimes push yourself up with your hands, and after a trip to the supermarket, your legs buzz and feel tired as if you walked much longer than you really did. If you are over 40 and you recognize yourself in this picture, there is nothing unusual about it. You are not lazy and not already old. What you are feeling is mostly the result of a very simple thing. Your leg muscles are getting weaker little by little, and your everyday life in its current form almost does not help them stay strong. After about 30 to 40 years of age, the body slowly starts to lose muscle mass if we do not use it regularly. The body always chooses efficiency. If some part of the system is not used much, the body gradually reduces it to save resources. Modern life is built in a way that pushes us exactly in that direction. Many people sit at work most of the day, then sit in the car or on public transport, then sit at home in front of a computer or television. We walk less than previous generations. We use lifts instead of stairs, and we choose comfort over physical effort. For the body, this looks like a clear signal. Strong muscles are not a priority. Step by step, the legs lose strength, and at first, you do not even notice it. One day you realize that you avoid stairs when possible, that you always look for a free seat, that you are more careful on slippery ground because you do not fully trust your balance. The good news is that this process is not something completely fixed. Age cannot be turned back, but the loss of muscle strength can be slowed down and partly reversed. Even if you are far from sport, you can still improve your leg strength in a simple and safe way at home. For this, you do not need a gym membership, special machines, or complicated programs. In this text, we will go through 2 basic exercises that are enough to make a real difference if you do them regularly. The first exercise is a simple version of a squat. The second is a basic exercise for calves and glutes, which can be done as calf raises and as a glute bridge. Both exercises can be adjusted for different levels. There are gentle versions for beginners and people with extra weight. There are normal versions for those who are already used to some movement, and there are more difficult versions for people with better fitness. We will also talk about safety, what sensations are normal, which symptoms mean you should stop, and in what situations you must speak to a doctor before doing any exercise. Before we talk about practice, it is important to say something clearly. This text is not a replacement for a personal visit to a doctor. I do not know your diagnoses, blood pressure, heart history, X-rays, or joint condition. Any recommendations here are general. If you have serious health problems, especially heart disease, uncontrolled high blood pressure, strong chest pain, frequent shortness of breath even with small activity, serious joint problems in hips, knees, or spine, or if you recently had a heart attack, stroke, or surgery, you must first discuss any new physical activity with your doctor. Even if there are no known serious diagnoses, you still need to listen carefully to your body. It is normal for muscles to feel tired and a bit burning during exercise, and it is normal to feel mild soreness the next day, especially at the beginning. It is not normal to feel sharp chest pain, strong pressure or burning in the chest, sudden strong shortness of breath like you cannot catch your breath at all, sudden dizziness or darkening in front of the eyes, loss of consciousness, sharp joint pain which makes you stop immediately, or numbness or weakness in a limb. If something like this appears, you stop, sit or lie down, rest, and if the symptoms do not go away quickly, you look for medical help. Now, we will move to what you can actually do. The nice thing is that you can train your legs in your living room, with just a stable chair, some free space, and comfortable clothes. Shoes are optional. Some people prefer to work barefoot on a non-slippery surface. It is always better to prepare the body before exercise with a short warm-up. You do not need to jump or run. A warm-up here is simply a few minutes of gentle movement to increase blood flow to the muscles and make joints feel less stiff. You can walk around the room at a slightly faster pace than usual. Move your shoulders in circles. Gently tilt your body forward with a straight back to a comfortable point. Make slow circles with your ankles and rotate your hips a little as if you are slowly dancing. The idea is simple. You turn on your body, but you do not force it. The first main exercise in our program is the squat. Do not be scared by the word. We are not talking about deep, heavy squats with a barbell. We are talking about the movement that you already do many times a day when you sit down and when you get up. To make it simpler and safer, we will use a chair. The chair must be stable, without wheels. Put it so that behind it there is some free space and it stands firmly on the floor. Sit on the chair once and stand up to check that its height is comfortable for you. Then stand up and position yourself right in front of the seat, facing away from the backrest, so that when you sit, you land exactly in the middle of the seat. Place your feet approximately shoulder width apart. Point your toes slightly outwards if that feels more natural. Put your whole foot on the floor. Do not stand on your toes and do not lift the inner side of the foot. Your weight should be distributed over the entire foot surface. Relax your shoulders and look forward. You can hold your arms in front of you, cross them on your chest, or let them hang down. Choose the option where you feel most stable. Now imagine that you simply want to sit down on the chair. Do not drop down quickly. Start the movement by moving your hips back a little, as if your pelvis is going towards the back of the chair. Only after that, allow your knees to bend. This order is important. When the hips go back first, the knees stay more or less above the feet and do not move far forward. You slowly lower your body until you sit on the chair. The back can tilt a bit forward during this, but try not to round it strongly. It should feel like a controlled descent, not a fall. When you are sitting, pause for a moment and then stand up again. Try to stand up with the strength of your legs, without pushing yourself hard with your hands from the chair. Push your feet into the floor, straighten your knees, and bring your hips back in line. If you cannot stand up without using your hands at first, it is okay. Use them lightly. For some people, especially with extra weight or very weak legs, this will be the starting level. Your task at this stage is not to look perfect, but to do the movement safely and gradually let the legs do more work and the arms less. Try to perform this sit-down, stand-up cycle 5 to 8 times in a row. Move slowly and do not rush. If after 3 or 4 repetitions your muscles tell you that this is enough, stop there. The goal is to send a signal to your legs that they are working, not to make you fall from exhaustion. With time, when the same number of repetitions feels easier, you can add 1 more repetition or 1 more small series of repetitions. If this version is already easy for you, You can make it slightly harder by not sitting fully on the chair. You lower yourself until you just touch the chair lightly with your hips and then stand up again. The chair stays behind you as a safety net. If you lose balance, you will still land on it, but in normal repetitions, you only touch it and rise. This gives more work to the muscles. The next step after that is to remove the chair from the main movement and use it only psychologically or for support if you become unstable. Stand with your feet as before, shoulder width apart, toes slightly to the side. Start the movement again by moving your hips back and then bending your knees. Imagine there is an invisible chair behind you. Go down only as far as you feel comfortable. For some people it will be a deep squat, for others just a small bend in the knees. You should not have sharp pain in the knees or hips. A slight stretching sensation or light discomfort in unused muscles is acceptable, but strong joint pain is a signal to stop or reduce the depth. When you rise from the squat, breathe out. When you lower yourself, breathe in. This way you avoid holding your breath and protect your heart and blood pressure from unnecessary spikes. If you have been active or played sports before and still feel quite fit, you can later add small complications such as slower lowering, a short pause at the bottom of the movement, or extra load like a backpack with a few books. But this is not necessary in the beginning. A clean, stable movement without weight is much more important than any additional difficulty. The second big exercise for protecting your legs after 40 works on calves and gluteal muscles. You can choose between two simple versions or combine them on different days. The first version is calf raises in a standing position. Stand near a wall, table, or the backrest of a chair that is stable. Put your feet about hip width apart. Keep them parallel or very slightly turned out. Take support with one or both hands so you do not worry about balance. Now, slowly rise up on your toes. Think of your heels as lifting away from the floor, while your weight moves onto the balls of your feet. You do not need to go extremely high. It is more important to have control and feel the muscles at the back of your lower legs working. Stay at the top for a short moment, and then slowly lower your heels back to the floor. Do not drop them sharply. Repeat this movement several times in a row. You can aim for 8 to 10 repetitions at first. Again, the exact number is not critical. It is important that the last repetitions feel a bit challenging, but still doable with proper form. If standing is difficult for you because of overall weakness, dizziness, or other reasons, you can start with a similar movement sitting on a chair. Sit with your feet flat on the floor and lift your heels up and down, keeping your toes on the ground. This is a lighter variant, but it also wakes up the calf muscles and helps blood circulation. As your calves adapt, you can gradually increase the number of repetitions. Later, if you feel stable and strong enough, you can try calf raises on one leg while holding on to support. In this case, you first stand on 2 legs, shift your weight gently to 1 foot, lift the other slightly, and do the rising and lowering movement on the standing leg. This is more difficult and should not be rushed. If you have strong varicose veins, edema, or a history of thrombosis, exercises for the lower legs should be discussed with a doctor. But for many people with mild circulation problems, controlled calf raises feel good and are recommended. The second option for training the back of the legs and glutes is the glute bridge. This exercise is done lying on your back. Find a mat, rug, or folded blanket so that the floor is not too hard. Lie on your back, bend your knees, and place your feet on the floor. Your heels should be somewhere under your knees or slightly closer to your hips. Keep your arms along your body with your palms down. First, just lie like this for a moment and notice how your back and pelvis rest on the floor. To start the movement, tighten your buttocks a little and gently lift your pelvis upwards. Do not push your lower back into an extreme arch. Imagine that you are lifting your hips in one piece so that your body forms a straight or slightly diagonal line from your shoulders to your knees. You go up only as high as you can without pain or loss of control. At the top, you pause briefly and feel the muscles in your buttocks and the back of your thighs. Then you slowly lower the pelvis back to the floor and relax. This is 1 repetition. Breathing remains calm. You can breathe in on the way down and out on the way up or in any other comfortable rhythm, but do not hold your breath. At the beginning, you can do 8 to 10 repetitions, then rest, then repeat this small series once or twice more. If lifting the pelvis high is too difficult, you can reduce the height. It is absolutely fine if in the first weeks the pelvis barely moves up. The important thing is that the muscles start to work. With time, the movement will become easier and the amplitude can increase. When the basic version becomes easy, there are ways to make the bridge more challenging. For example, you can stay at the top position for 3 to 5 seconds before going down. Or you can move your feet a little farther away from your hips so that the back of the thighs works harder. There is also a version with one leg, but it requires good control and healthy joints, so it is only for people with experience and without back problems. If during glute bridges you feel sharp pain in your lower back, shooting pain down the leg, or strong discomfort in the hips, it is better to stop and discuss this with a medical professional or physical therapist. Now that we have looked at the exercises themselves, we can talk about how to combine them depending on your current level. Imagine 3 typical situations. In the first situation, you have not done any sport for a long time. You get tired quickly. Maybe you have extra weight. And even the idea of exercise makes you a bit nervous. In the second situation, you sometimes walk. You do not avoid all stairs. You can walk for 20 or 30 minutes, but you have never followed a structured strength program. In the third situation, you already feel relatively fit, and you want to support that in a safe way. For people in the first situation, the best strategy is to start very small, so that the body is not shocked and the brain does not resist. Choose 3 days in the week, for example, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On these days, you spend about 10 to 15 minutes on yourself. First, you warm up for 5 to 7 minutes with light walking around the room, simple arm movements, and gentle bends. Then you do your chair squats. In the first sessions, it is enough to do 2 series of 5 to 8 repetitions each. After each series, you sit down and rest until your breathing is back to normal. After the squats, you do calf raises or glute bridges, whichever feels more comfortable. Again, you can do 2 series of 8 to 10 repetitions. At this level, we are not trying to build a fitness champion. The main goal is to send a steady signal to the body that the legs are used regularly again. If you are in the second situation and you already tolerate walking moderately well, you can work a little more. You also start with a short warm-up. Then you do chair squats with only a light touch of the seat before standing up. You perform 3 series of 8 to 10 controlled repetitions. After that, you add either standing calf raises or glute bridges, or both, in 2 or 3 series of 10 to 12 repetitions each. This program can also be done 3 or 4 times a week. After a few weeks, you will probably notice that daily movements become easier. When this happens, you can start to replace some of the chair squats with free squats without sitting down. If your general condition is closer to the third situation, you might decide to do 2 or 3 more intensive but still short sessions per week. You still begin with warm-up. Then you do 3 or 4 series of free squats with 10 to 12 repetitions per series, concentrating on form, breathing, and stability. After that, you do calf raises with a higher number of repetitions or with partial single leg work and glute bridges with a short hold at the top. Even at this level, the idea is not to destroy yourself, but to keep the legs strong as you age. Whatever your level, there are common rules. Any training session should leave you feeling a bit tired, but generally good, maybe with pleasant warmth in the legs, not broken and destroyed. The next day, your muscles may feel heavy or mildly sore, especially at the beginning of your journey. This is expected. If the pain is strong and limits your ability to walk, sit down, stand up, or sleep, that is a sign that you did too much and you should reduce the load in the next sessions. Joint pain that grows with every exercise and does not go away is not something to ignore. In that case, you need to modify the movements or get individual advice. Because many people after 40 have at least some cardiovascular risk factors, it is important to mention the heart again. Moderate strength training for large muscle groups, including legs, is usually positive for the heart when done correctly. It helps control weight, improves blood sugar, supports blood pressure regulation, and general stamina. Problems arise when people hold their breath, push themselves far beyond comfort, or ignore warning signs. During all exercises, try to breathe regularly. Do not clamp your jaw, and do not squeeze your breath during effort. If you take medicines for blood pressure or heart rhythm, accept that your training has to be modest and consistent, not maximal and heroic. It also makes sense to think about the joints that carry your weight every day. Knees and hips often already have some degree of wear and tear after 40, especially if there has been extra weight for years or if you had injuries in the past. In such cases, deep angles in the knees or sudden jumps in load may be harmful. For many people with knee problems, shallow squats to a chair and glute bridges feel much better than deep, heavy squats. If pain appears in the front of the knee, directly around the kneecap, it is a signal to reduce how low you go or to adjust foot position. Sometimes it also helps to strengthen the muscles above the knee gradually and to reduce body weight. This is not explained here as a full therapy program, but it is important to understand that there are always ways to adjust exercises to your joints. Another factor that influences how your legs respond to training is your sleep and nutrition. Muscles do not become stronger during the exercise itself. They adapt during rest. If you constantly sleep very little, the body recovers worse. Similarly, if your diet barely contains protein and you eat mainly sweets, pastries, and fast food, your muscles do not receive enough material to rebuild. For most adults, it makes sense to include a source of protein in every main meal, such as meat, fish, eggs, dairy products, legumes, or a balanced vegetarian alternative. But any specific numbers should be discussed with a doctor if there are kidney or other conditions. You do not need supplements or powders to start. Regular food is enough if it is varied and not extremely restrictive. It may be useful to imagine yourself in the future. Imagine one version of yourself 10 years from now who has decided to ignore the first signs of leg weakness. This person always chooses the elevator, always looks for a seat, avoids long walks, stays in the car when others go for a short hike. Over time, this version becomes more and more dependent on others. Carrying heavy bags becomes dangerous, stairs become a big problem, and icy winter streets become a real fear. Now imagine a second version of yourself who decided, even with doubts and laziness, to dedicate 10 or 15 minutes several times a week to 2 simple exercises. This person still uses transport, still has a normal job, a normal life, but squares out some space for sit-to-stand work and basic calf and glute training. 10 years later, this version may still climb stairs without panic, carry their own bags, play on the floor with a child, and get up, and feel generally more free. The difference between these two versions is not talent or love of sport. It is a small but stable habit. 2 exercises, a bit of discipline. Understanding that strong legs are not about looking fit on social media, but about independence in real life. When you can get up from the floor without help, when you can walk up to your apartment if the lift is broken, when you can walk at a normal pace with younger family members, you feel very differently about yourself and about aging. So if you are reading this now and thinking that it is already too late for you, or that you are too busy, or that your situation is special, try to reduce the task. You do not have to commit to a perfect, complex program. Commit to something very small and concrete. For example, you might decide that after you finish reading, you will stand up, find a stable chair, and do 1 set of 5 slow sit-to-stand repetitions. Not 20, not until failure, just 5. If that feels okay, you can add 1 small set of calf raises or glute bridges. That is all for today. Tomorrow you repeat. In a week or 2, when this mini routine becomes familiar, you can add volume or an extra day. The body and the brain accept slow and steady change much easier than radical attempts that last 3 days and then disappear. The main message of this whole text can be said in 1 simple sentence. After 40, your legs really do become weaker if you do nothing. But 2 very basic exercises done regularly can significantly delay this process and keep you moving longer. Chair squats and calf raises or glute bridges are simple, do not require special equipment, and can be adapted to almost any starting level. If you respect your body, listen to warning signs, and give yourself time, these small steps will bring you more benefits than any perfect but unrealistic plan that you never start.